Ron, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the 1990s. So what I did, guys, this week, I had messaged Ron. I was not going to have time to revisit the H.G. Wells book in preparation for this, much as I would have liked to. But I did, for fun, I went and watched the 1996 version of The Island of Doctor Moreau, starring Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer and Rob Morrow, if I'm saying his name right, and Fairuza Balk. I had a lot of fun with this. This movie, what I knew of this movie at the time, the only other time I've seen this movie was when it came out. So that was like 28 years ago, if I'm doing my math correctly. Right? 1996, 2024? Is it?
I don't know. I'm not doing math.
Okay, I think 28 years, I want to say, since the last time I saw this movie. So I remembered that it was weird, but I remembered very little of it. I knew, based on things I'd read online over the years, that it was a disaster of a production. I did not know to what extent. And so I'm going to share some of that with you guys because it was what a hot mess of a film. But I have such a soft spot for 90s films, whether they're good or bad. So I had so much fun. If you're willing to pay $3.99 to rent this movie and stream it, you should do it. It's so much fun. Let's see. What did I say? I came out with like some really strong opinions after watching this film in terms of like performances, and I would love to share that. And I begged Ron, I was like, please let me talk about this, because when are we ever going to get the chance to talk about Dr. Moreau ever again? So I've got to shoot my shot. So let me share some fun trivia. This production was notoriously difficult. Like I said, I knew that going in. I did not realize by how much. So much so that 20 years later, in a documentary directed by David Gregory called Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Doctor Moreau, which came out in 2014, the cast and crew talk about what they all went through. I'm pulling this stuff from a resource off of goldenglobes.com that we'll have linked for you guys. So here's some fun stuff about this movie. Richard Stanley, the film's director, who had directed other horror films, this was his passion project. He wanted to bring this adaptation to the screen for years, and New Line Cinema went for it. They hired him. They gave him the green light. And then they decided to bring in Marlon Brando. And once they did that, this kind of amped up the production. It became this big budget thing. And so for a period of time, they tried to ditch Richard Stanley and bring in Roman Polanski. And then this is what he did. This is what's said in the documentary, Ron. It gets very bizarre because Richard Stanley then begs for a meeting with Marlon Brando to, I guess, essentially beg him to use his influence to keep him on the production. He also sought the help and enlisted the service of what he calls a warlock, the spiritual guidance of a warlock, to work his magic and make everything all right. I'm not even kidding. He hires a warlock to commit like magic to make this all happen. And miraculously, Richard Stanley is brought back on production. Bruce Willis was at one point attached to this film. So was James Wood in the role of Montgomery. Ultimately, the role of Montgomery went to Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer at this point in the 90s, Ron, was having a grand old time. He had just taken his turn in Batman, the Batman films, which I believe his role, can you look it up real quick? Val Kilmer's Batman was the one with Nicole Kidman, correct? And tell me the year that came out. Was that 95, 96? Where was I in my life at that time?
Would you be in high school? What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2000. So I would have been in high school. I'm just trying to figure out what year, like when, how old. Yeah, I was in high school when this movie came out. I was maybe 14. I was the age of Carlotta at the age when this movie came out. Island of Doctor Moreau.
1996, you said?
When did he do Batman?
Batman Forever was 1995.
And who was in that? That's Nicole Kidman, right?
I don't ever think that's the one Batman movie I've never seen.
Well, in my mind, I don't think it was that great. The villain in the one I'm thinking of, the villain is Jim Carrey, the Riddler.
Yeah, the Riddler. Yeah, it is Nicole Kidman. Sorry.
Okay. So Val Kilmer's Batman, it was Nicole Kidman as the love interest. The Riddler is Jim Carrey. So yes. So Val Kilmer has just taken his turn as Batman. And that same year, 1996, when this year comes out, he does The Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas. Did you ever see that film by chance, Ron?
Mm-mm.
You should see it. It's so much fun. But anyway, he does that. So he's what do you mean? What is that face? It is a great
I don't know
film.
what you mean when you say it was so much fun. Does that mean
It's
it's a bad movie?
I don't know. It's a
Because it
90s
doesn't seem like a
movie.
movie that would be like the topic is fun. So I don't know what you mean when you say it's like whenever you say it was a fun movie. I don't know what that means.
The 90s are
Unless
all
it's a
fun.
comedy.
The 90s are all fun movies to me.
See, there are people that
I
can
even
do
look
that.
at Outbreak as fun. It's a fun
There are
movie.
people that can watch a bad movie and they call it like hate watching, or they just watch it to rip it, to make fun of it. I'm not, if it's not good, I don't want to spend my time watching it.
No, okay, well, that's fair. So to clarify what I mean by that, I genuinely look. We're going to talk. I won't leave you today without my thoughts. I enjoyed rewatching this Island of Doctor Moreau. I know it. I know people really people hate this movie. People look at it as a hot mess. I don't blame them. I see it also, but I really just enjoyed the nutty energy of this movie. With The Ghost in the Darkness, it's not the same vibe. The Ghost in the Darkness is a more organized film. Whether or not you like the story, I don't know. I can't vouch. I liked the story. I liked the actors and the plot. And the same thing with like a lot of 90s movies, whether or not they're good and bad. If I like it, it's because I enjoyed the movie. But whether or not they're good and bad, I will leave that to experts that are not me. So anyway,
Yeah.
so he had just
it has a 4.6 on IMDb.
Which one?
The Island of Doctor Moreau.
Okay. So, like what I'm trying to say is Val Kilmer is coming off of those highs. He's coming off of Batman. In 1995, he had just done Heat, which was also a big movie. And then he's got The Ghost in the Darkness coming out the same year. So he is very high on himself. And he goes into this production very prima donna, says he doesn't have a whole lot of time for it, so he's super busy, and he demands that his shooting time gets sliced down by 40%. And he's kind of a general terror on this movie from the sounds of it, so which is very unfortunate because I do, especially 90s Val Kilmer. I like Val Kilmer. I think he was a great actor in the 90s. But in this movie, I do not think he gives a good performance, and I'll say more about that. Marlon Brando also, prior to this production going into start, loses a child. He has an adult child that dies by suicide. He's obviously in a state of like sheer grief and disappears for a while. How they got him to come back to this production, I don't know. But so they've got that going on. Richard Stanley at one point does get fired from this production because it's going so badly. At one point, I think there's even like a hurricane or something that destroys a lot of the set and equipment that they were using for this production. So like I said, he gets fired. He's told to get on a plane and leave the set. He does not get on a plane. He disappears into the rainforest for a period of time.
Wow.
Just nuts. And so I won't be able to, we're going to link the stuff for you guys. Please go look at this article, watch this documentary. It's insane, but the movie itself was fun to rewatch and revisit. I will say, this is what I'm going to say, and this is what I'm going to end on. I think Marlon Brando, for all of the weirdness of Marlon Brando, and I know everybody kind of writes him off as just being this bizarro actor, but I think what he's doing in this film, Veronica, he is giving you a performance. He is doing something. It is nuanced. Whether or not it's smart, whether or not it's great, I don't know. But he is giving us something. The person who is not giving us something is Val Kilmer, somewhat by his own design, because he butchered this role and insisted on shorter shooting time. But he could have, for as good of an actor as Val Kilmer is, he could have given us so much more with the role that he had, and he did not. And that's disappointing to me because he is a good actor. At the end of the film, when Montgomery kind of goes a little insane, which I think he does in the H.G. Wells book too, doesn't he? He kind of loses touch with reality. But in this,
gets drunk.
Well, and same thing. Like he's just sort of, he loses his touch with reality towards the end. Brando gives us some kind of a character, and instead of Val Kilmer interpreting that character, he's just giving us his bad Marlon Brando impression. So like, I don't know. It It was frustrating to me because I know 90s Val Kilmer was so much better than this, and I'm like, you could have been so much better than this, and I'm disappointed in you, sir. But yeah, it was a fun movie. I think everybody should watch it. I think it's worth watching. I wouldn't tell you that if it was just a really bad movie, but I enjoyed it. Watch it if you will. I encourage it. Don't Watch at Night is a Nest production hosted by me, Valerie, and Veronica. Editing by me. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Don't Watch at Night every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.